Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, and welcome to another discussion video today. There's a particular reason why this video is going out now because, as you may or may not be aware, today the 10th of October is World Mental Health Day. Now, before we go any further, while I am going to be talking about mental health today, I do need to point out that obviously I'm not a doctor or a medical professional of any kind. If you're struggling for whatever reason and feel like you need help, I would really recommend that you seek that from somebody who is vastly more qualified than myself to talk about these things. And what I'll do is I'll leave some links in the description for anyone that might find them useful. Now, mental health is something that affects all of us. For some, that may be a long-term thing, like dealing with depression or anxiety in any of its many forms. Or it can be something more short-term, like getting a bit of bad news that might upset you, or literally even just having a bad day every once in a while for no reason. And in a similar way, that doesn't mean the solutions for looking after your mental health have to be big medical interventions either. Therapy or medication may work great for some people, but for others a slightly different approach might be needed. And that's where this kind of ties into the model railway hobby and just railways in general. So this video was kind of inspired by this meme that I saw. I'm afraid I don't know where this originated from. It just popped up in my Facebook feed one day, and yes, it's very humorous, I get it. It's meant to be lighthearted and not taken seriously. However, I would argue that restoring and operating a steam locomotive is a form of therapy, certainly for those who are interested in that. Volunteering is one of the many things that some therapists do recommend for improving your mental health, and it's one of the reasons why I personally volunteer at the Spa Valley Railway myself. Getting out of the house, doing something that you find fun and interesting, but also being part of a bigger project, a group of people all working towards a common goal. Well, these are things that can help keep you grounded, help keep you enjoying life, and it's something to look forward to. With volunteering at a heritage railway in particular, there's also a sense of responsibility that comes with whatever position you hold. That can be from the competency that you hold for something like being a guard or a signaller, but just generally knowing that other people at the railway value your contribution, because if you hadn't have turned up, a train might not be able to run, or a vital piece of restoration couldn't be completed for some reason. It's nice to be wanted and valued in that way. So this all ties into the fact that having a hobby is doing something that makes you happy, and that in itself is a type of therapy. Something that distracts you from the real world for a bit, or just allows you to put it to one side temporarily while you have some fun. But how do model railways fit into this? So model railways can be great for your mental health in a real multitude of ways. Of course, it links in with all the reasons I've just said, like being a good distraction, something outside of work and something that you enjoy. But there is more to it than that. There's a reason that a lot of people say model railways are the best hobby in the world, and I do think that's because of just how versatile this hobby can be. It's a very proactive thing, creating a layout. It doesn't just happen. There's a lot of steps that go into it. And with each step, you can really see that progress in a very visible and tangible way. You know, from getting the track laid, that's obviously a very big step, and then wiring it up so that you can run your trains, to even more visual things like getting a building finished or doing the grass for a new hillside. You can really see what you've accomplished. And because there are so many different steps that go into building a layout, equally there are a lot of different skills you can develop along the way. Woodworking for building the baseboard, electronics, painting back scenes or weathering locomotives and rolling stock, creating your own buildings or making kits. There's various different scenic techniques too. You know, ballasting is a very different set of skills from, say, using static grass. Even putting together prototypical trains from ready-to-run stock is a skill in its own right. And yeah, you may not engage in all of these. You may find someone else to build the baseboard, for example, or maybe you prefer locos to look pristine rather than weathered. But there's so many different techniques and skills that go into a model railway that you can really push your boundaries in a lot of different ways. Yeah, it might seem a bit scary at first, but I like to think if I've shown anything with the videos on this channel, once you break the steps down, actually there isn't that much that is really too difficult. It might take a bit of practice, but at the end of the day, if you mess it up, well, it's only a model. You can always start again. Model railways are fundamentally a creative outlet, a project you can work on, and essentially you're making something from nothing. You start with a blank space or a bare baseboard, and eventually it turns into this little world that you've created. And you can step back and go, yeah, I made that. And again, all those little tips and techniques that you've picked up along the way might be useful elsewhere in life too. I remember in particular about a year ago, someone needed some wires soldering together for something, and I was able to do it for them. But I only had that skill because I'd learnt to solder for my model railway, and there's loads of other little things like that throughout the hobby that can be useful in a wider aspect of life. There is also a social aspect to model railways too. Just like I said with volunteering at a heritage railway where you're part of a team, the same could be said for building a layout too. Now, the most obvious example of this is being part of a model railway club. It's great for interacting with other like-minded people, and often there are various layouts under construction that you can get involved with. And so again, there's a group of you working towards a common goal. And equally, everyone will have their own strengths and weaknesses too. So you might be great at track laying, for example, but someone else is much better at making buildings. And just being able to bounce off each other in a creative way and have that interaction with others based around something that you're all interested in, well, that's a great thing for your mental health. You know, the wider population might still see model railways as a bit uncool, but who cares as long as you're having fun and making friends while doing it. And at this point, it only seems fair to mention the New Haven and District Model Railway Club, who I spoke to earlier this year at the Bluebell Railway exhibition. If you remember from that video, they've really put a lot of work into making their club an accepting community where it's not just about building railways, but listening to each other and sharing ideas and techniques too. And if you're not part of a club, well, there are lots of exhibitions to go to as well, where you can see inspiring layouts and talk to fellow modelers or even the manufacturers. Again, it's an excuse to get out into the real world, even if just for a day, to be around like-minded people. With the rise of social media too, there are plenty of ways to stay in contact with each other, and there are loads of different spaces like forums or Instagram or even here on YouTube where you can share your work and keep up to date with other people's projects too. If you're struggling with an idea or aren't sure how to go about something, often you can ask the question online and there will be someone willing to help out. In fact, a lot of the time you can ask 10 different people and get 15 different solutions, which is a nice problem to have. And sure, there are lots of people out there who like to have a bit of a moan or complain about things. That's kind of true for everything in life though, and I do believe that this hobby can be really supportive when it wants to. You only have to look at the comments on this channel, for example, for proof. I mean, the YouTube comment section is notorious for being very antagonistic and a bit of a dumpster fire, honestly. And yes, I do get a lot of comments from people telling me that I'm rubbish and that I have no idea what I'm doing. But the majority, the overwhelming majority, are people who enjoy the videos or who are asking questions or even just answering questions left by others with their own tips. Honestly, I think one of the best things to come out of this channel is the community of people that have formed around it. As much as I try to maintain a positive frame on the hobby, that really is all down to you guys, and I think that's wonderful. When it comes to mental health, there is a sense of control that this hobby offers that isn't always possible in the real world. It's a fact of life that things aren't always going to go our way. And, you know, that can be simple day-to-day things that aren't going to matter a month or two later. Or it can be worrying about a bigger problem in the wider world, things that are far beyond any of our individual control. With a model railway, though, you get to create what you want. That's obviously true from a visual point of view, but the world that you build around your railway can be shaped in whatever way you want. A great example of this is that a lot of railways are modelled on a perfect summer day, yet the grass hasn't dried out and the steam locos rarely start line-side fires. For many people, it's a perfect world where any problems that do arise are usually of your own design to keep things interesting. The railway can be perfectly ordered if you like, everything running in correct formation and trains never running late. Or it can be the complete opposite, where it's more fun and carefree. Who cares if you're running different types of locos or rolling stock together? It's just a bit of fun, and Rule 1 applies in both situations. It's my railway, I'll run what I like. Yeah, that can be for those who run a real mishmash of stuff, but it's equally true for those who want to recreate a slice of history in their own way. I do think it's worth talking about rivet counters when it comes to mental health too. Now, if you don't know what a rivet counter is, it's the name for someone who gets a bit obsessive about details in the hobby. For example, someone who would count all the rivets on a model to make sure the right number are there. Now, there are lots of people who feel that rivet counters only exist to upset other modelers. It's easy to see why. They have a reputation for going around telling others why their hard work is wrong and just generally sapping all the fun out of the hobby. However, I would like to point out that there are multiple ways to take part in this hobby and everyone enjoys it in a different way. Personally, I actually think it's fine to be a rivet counter. Now, I could probably do a whole video on this topic alone, and do let me know down in the comments if that is something that you would like me to do in the future. But honestly, being passionate about a particular region or an era or any kind of niche within an already fairly niche kind of hobby to begin with, well, I think that's absolutely fine. As long as you're doing it because you get enjoyment out of it and not out of some obligation that you feel you have to uphold. There is, of course, a fine line between passion and obsessiveness, and that is something to be aware of. But rivet counters only really become problematic when they start trying to force their views and opinions on others. If you're the sort of person who sees somebody else's model railway and all you can do is criticise it and point out all the things that are wrong, well, that's not good for anybody, yourself included. Most likely you'll upset people, end up ostracising yourself, but just bringing a negative attitude to something that should be fun and enjoyed, that's not good for your mental health. And like I say, it's fine to have your specialist area that you're passionate about, but just recognise that not everyone is going to feel the same way, and that's fine. For example, you might be really concerned with making sure all the rolling stock on your layout is correct for the period and that you run everything in the right formations. But maybe you're less interested in the signalling aspect. And so imagine how it would feel if someone who knows their stuff about signalling came along and glossed over all of your hard work that you'd done on the rolling stock and the formations because one of your signals was in slightly the wrong place. It's a two-way street, so appreciate that not everyone has your knowledge and not everyone cares. The model railway hobby is a wide spectrum that covers everything from incredible fine-scale models to people just running some trains around a circuit at breakneck speeds for a bit of fun. No matter what end of that scale you're on, you should be having fun. So if you are in the habit of getting a bit obsessed over specific details and it's really starting to get you down, well, maybe just take a step back and remember why you got into the hobby in the first place. On the subject of taking a step back, I do think that that can be a good thing for everyone in the hobby to do from time to time. We all have frustrating points where sometimes things just don't work. For me, recently, that was literally a set of points that didn't want to work. We take up hobbies for enjoyment and recreation. It's a bit of fun, and at the end of the day, this all boils down to us being interested in playing with toy trains. That's it. Yes, you can take it seriously if you like, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't lose sight of that initial spark of interest, that initial enthusiasm and passion that brought you to the hobby in the first place. Everything in moderation, of course, just don't let it consume you. Model railways, though, are a great way to escape, even if only temporarily, from the pressures of everyday life. It's a place where you can switch off and unwind with your own creative project, and the skills that you pick up along the way will be useful out in the real world too. Not to mention the confidence you can gain from starting and completing a project like this. Just think of the amount of pride and satisfaction you can have when you complete something. Whether it's something small like a kit or an entire layout, you can step back and go, I did that, I made that. And for that reason alone, I think that makes model railways, well, it makes this whole hobby worthwhile. I do hope you've enjoyed this video today. If you have, please do subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the bell icon too so you can get a notification when I release more videos in the future. In the meantime though, be kind to everyone around you, be kind to yourself, and that's going to be it for today. Thanks so much for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.